Yes, and we are on. These fish don't see a lot of lures, so that's always a good thing. This is what I wanted to see. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Yes. Ah, and we are off the mark. I feel so much better catching a fish. Looking after these fish as carefully as possible today, so I'm going to leave it in the environment, let it relax. I'm going to unhook this fish, and then we're going to quickly get it on the measure, get the info we need, and then we're going to let it go back. Right now I'm like a kid in a lolly shop, because with this code I get access to a waterway that sees little to no fishing pressure. And today we're here to answer some important scientific questions and catch some fish. I'm here to show you just might be more of a fish scientist and conservationist than you might think. Today we are fishing at Lake Sampson Vale in southeast Queensland and Brisbane City's northern reaches. The lake actively dams the waters of the North Pine River, and being that it's an important water storage managed by SEQ Water, the fishing in the lake is largely restricted. The good news is a group known as the Pine Rivers Fish Management Association is letting us fish today in one of their monitoring sessions, and I stand a really good chance of passing a personal best, an Australian bass in that 55 centimetre plus category. The PRFMA was started in 1993 with backing from the Queensland Government and local councils. Their charter among many was to manage and stock water storage facilities of the Pine Rivers catchment with suitable fish species. Their aim is to encourage local fishing and promote research of fish in the surrounding natural and altered waterways. They are allowed 2 days a year to fish in Lake Sampson Vale so as to collect data, and luckily we and a select group of anglers are here to help them today. Today a group of anglers is catching fish and recording data for analysis by the Pine Rivers Fish Management Association and SEQ Water's fishery scientists. I'm going to hit the water for a few hours and try and catch a bass, and then I'm going to hand over this boat to a tournament bass pro and see if he is better than I am. G'day mate.
Good to meet you.
Pleasure to be here.
It is a lovely day, isn't it? I couldn't want anything better.
You put it on for us. What do you want me to do today?
Well, it's a catch and release day and measure and tag. So first of all, there's a grid map of the dam that tells you if you catch a fish, we like you to note the area that you caught it in.
Cool.
We're currently in G6.
Yep.
I've got a list of all the vessels that are partaking in this today with their numbers. They're all numbered. Yeah.
Who's the best fisherman on there?
There's a number of fishermen on there that are extremely good, like Dennis Pearce is our top tagger, Ray Kennedy is another top tagger.
So I'm just going to follow them?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
okay. What else I got to do?
We have our data sheets, white and pink. The pink is for recaptures, just to keep them different. We hope to recapture quite a few fish today, and that way we can see how many days they've been out since they were tagged. And from that information, the growth rates and so forth and their movements, right? And the other sheets are just for fish that are not tagged. There's a number of sheets there. There's about enough to write down 150 fish to catch.
Yep.
Right? So, yeah, and you can use bait or lure, the whole dam is available. Right.
Thank you, mate. I'm going to go fishing.
Have fun. Great.
It's now time to get the boat in the water and find out if I can catch a fish here. It's interesting that stocking of this waterway was originally considered to keep the food web in balance, and by that I mean without your predators, the smaller parts of the food chain become overabundant. And it just reminds you how important our apex predators are wherever you find water. When you find them, sometimes it can happen quick if they're in the mood to play. These fish don't see a lot of lures. That's always a good thing. This is what I wanted to see. Fish that don't get pressured a whole lot. Oh yes, go fish. Little blade has done the job straight away. Schooling fish are often competitive, and you can get something that stirs up the instincts in amongst them. They very quickly fight for it. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Yes. Ah, we are off the mark. I feel so much better catching a fish. Looking after these fish as carefully as possible today, so I'm going to leave it in the environment, let it relax. I'm going to unhook this fish, And then we're going to quickly get it on the measure, get the info we need, and then we're going to let it go back. I usually look for a lip grip in the fish. They don't have sharp teeth. Before I pick them up, I'm going to carefully pick the fish up under its belly. So I'm supporting the weight of the fish so there's no weight coming onto its neck. That is a great way to handle a lot of our fish. Parts of these fish you really want to be careful of when you're handling them is these super sharp gill rakers. He's got a wicked spike, hangs off the top of the gill plate. They're also covered in really sharp spines. So be very careful when you're handling the good old Aussie bass. You can go off to grow bigger and nastier. The waters are cool and we've not long ago had the full moon, which is very often a trigger for a lot of species to want to spawn. So my plan is to search this dam using my fish finder. I'm going to look for the old river course because it's funny how much genetics plays a part. These fish are still going to look for the riverway to get together and spawn. If I can find that old river course in my sounder and hopefully a few schools of bass, I might be in with a shot. Just come across a school of fish here now. Maybe this is a school that's got some bigger ones. Got 3 types of lures to use today and they're perfect for spawning bass. Got these metal blades, vibrate right down deep on the bottom. Got a tail spinner, looks like a little baitfish with a flashing little tail. And I've got some micro jigs. All of these sink, they can actively be kept in amongst the fish and hopefully they'll get the job done. Might be onto something here. It might just be getting a little bit bigger. That's a good one. Just slowly twitching that blade close to bottom. Somewhere in there, it's hopefully going to be a big one. And there's colour. They're starting to get bigger. Yes. Starting to get a bit bigger. Whew, starting to relax a little bit more.
The Australian bass is what we refer to as a catadromous species and lives in the fresh water.
And he's got to migrate down to the brackish water at the base of the estuary to spawn. So they obviously can't do it in dams like this, which is why we have to stock them to manage the apex predator balance.
All the data collected today will be used by the PRFMA and SEQ water scientists to better understand the predatory fish in this waterway.
36 centimetres. Hopefully a bigger one down there shortly.
While I'm on the water, so too are the scientists from SEQ Water. They are looking to catch stock so as to tag larger specimens, weigh them and gather the odd fish for ageing studies. Today there are also other anglers on the lake as part of a 2-day window where they are allowed to fish. The aim is to gather data on the local fish stocks, and this information is used to establish the success of native fish stockings and to determine if the food web or ecosystem are in balance. With time now dwindling, I continue the hunt for a big bass in Lake Samsonvale.
2 hours before my bass pro arrives. I want to at least try and get a big fish before he comes along. Don't want to be shown up by one of these tournament boys. 2 hours and counting. Come on, the big fish. The idea with these tail spinners is to make it look like a bait fish that is fleeing off the bottom, and the idea is to lift them high, get a good 1, 2, 4 metre lift up off the bottom, big wind and a lift, and then pause the lure at the top. There's a bite already. Oh yes, got him. Oh yes. That is how tail spinners work. Fish just cannot resist what looks like a fleeing option. So having a long rod helps. Lift it up off the bottom, keeping the line tight. Keep your rod up high, and very often as it lifts to the top, as you stop, you find a little tap on the rod, and that means the fish is coming eating it. Go the tail spinner straight away. There's no monster yet. But he's a fat one. Look at the condition of this fish. How fat is that for that size of fish? Which shows you they are gorging on the local food supplies in this dam. It's one of the really important reasons that they are stocked here, to keep in control not just noxious species, but all our baitfish populations that without predation would become well and truly overabundant. This dam, in 20 years, there's been 1.5 million bass stocked here, and it's largely restricted fishing, open in some areas to kayaks and shore-based fishing. So it's a great experiment to see how fish respond and they aren't pressured that much by anglers. Cast in, we're going to get rid of the move. Oh, jeez. No one ate it. On the way up, this might be a better one. How good's that? Shows you they won't just sit down there in the pack if something comes flying through them. They're programmed to eat it. Alrighty, crunch that. I could be hooked in the tail, this one. This fish has had a crack at it, and we've got him in the tail. And that is still a chunky, chunky fish. Yes. Oh, wow. That's more like it. What you'll find with Australian bass is the warmer the water, the bigger they grow. And these days, a 60 centimetre fish, around 3 kilos, that's a big one. Closest relative is the estuary perch, and you'll find them all the way south. The Aussie bass will go as far south as Wilson's Promontory in Victoria. This one's 41 centimetres. We are getting there. Yeah, gotcha. It's a lot of fun when you have a bunch of fish underneath the boat and they all want to eat. It doesn't happen all the time. Here he comes now. Oh, they're a gorgeous looking fish. They're such an aggressive Australian freshwater predator. Got these big, powerful shoulders. Look how proud those fins stand. Got a big tail, full of power, big shoulders, a very spiky, armoured head, and that big mouth. So they're made for bursts of speed. They're a great camouflage fish. You just look at the colour of that. It fits in so well on these watercolours. And that mouth, serrated lips to hold fish in, and a big engulfing bite that can suck in all manner of insects and bait fish. My time on the water has come to an end, and it's time for me to hand the boat over to a Bass Tournament Pro while I go in search of scientific information on the fish stocked in this waterway. A Tournament Pro is Dean Silvester, an absolute gun on the local Aussie bass tournament scene. Mate, pleasure to have you aboard. Or maybe
Yeah.
You've got a 41 centimetre fish to beat in an afternoon bite. Good luck. I didn't leave you a whole lot of work to do. The life jacket is yours. I'm going to go and speak to our scientists and find out what work they do here. I'll let you go catch a fish.
Awesome, thank you, sir. So I plan to just target bigger fish rather than a lot of fish. So I'm going to use bigger lures, heavier lures, and sort of lures that deter smaller fish. So hopefully that'll cancel out more bites, but in the end, mean bigger fish. Oh, that's another one. He's gone as well. Oh, he's back. Ooh. So I had the decision of going left or right from the boat ramp this morning, or lunchtime. Nigel went left, I went right. I wasn't sure whether it was the right decision to start with because there's no fish showing up. So I've chose to use a bigger lure than what Nigel was using. I saw Nigel was using the 20 gram. I've gone with the 30 to try and target bigger fish. Historically for me, a bigger lure catches bigger fish. So we're trying to skip out on these smaller fish. That's not a small bass, it's a nice bass. So I'm not sure how Nigel was measuring them, but he's right on 41 to the tip. So we won't claim that as a win yet, but it's promising.
Yeah, mate.
Hey, Nige.
We've got David Roberts, one of our local SEQ water fishery scientists. You've been out on the water showing me how it's done. Now I want you to show me about the important work you do in a case study like this.
Sure, let's get in
and do some real work.
Will do. Lake Samson Vale and I have got a pretty long history. I've worked on this lake for a good 11 or 12 years now. I actually did my doctorate here and I studied the food web of the lake and how it affects the bass fishery here. So we're helping out PRFMA look at the health of their fishery. We're catching, tagging as many bass as we can, and we're getting lots of good information about how they're growing and how big they are. So we use this information to tell us a lot about the health and the status of their fishery. PRFMA are really keen to monitor and get the best fishery they can from this dam, and this information helps us do that.
I cast it out and I let it fall under a free fall so I don't take up any of my retrieve on the way back. I don't lose any of that distance. And then all I'm essentially doing is burning it for about 5 turns, letting it free fall back down. So it's starting up through the fish and then falling back down through them, just causing them to react. Oh, there you go. So on the free fall, I open the bail Just then I was watching my line, I thought it took a couple of seconds longer than I expected to reach the bottom. Because the fish had it in its mouth. When you're catching a few, that means you're on the right path. Oh, tagged fish too. See how he went. Sorry, Nigel, that's 43, but I still think there's bigger out there.
Recapture of tagged fish like these provides important scientific information and demonstrates the value of data collection projects such as these.
So over the years, what we've found out from monitoring this fishery is that bass in Lake Sampson Vale are generally a lot heavier for their length than most other lakes in southeast Queensland. This has got a lot to do with the abundant food in here and the fact that they eat bony brim primarily. Bass is the top predator in this lake, and we need to stock bass in here because they can't migrate past the dam wall, and it's important to have a balanced ecosystem with predators and food sources in the lake. So we believe predators are really important to maintain a lot of processes in the lake, like how good the water quality is. It's because they keep a lot of the smaller forage fish in check by eating them and making sure they don't get out of kilter.
Oh, there we go. Doesn't matter what size they are, they're always fun. Hard little fighters, heavy fish. This colour, it hooked him in the mouth first, the other hook swung around, so I'm trying to drag this fish sideways, which was why it was hard to tell what its size was. It's just over 45, that one. Whoop. Oh! That was definitely bigger than Nigel's. That was massive. We have not had, literally, I have not had a cast without a bite or a hookup. Almost getting worse to the point where I only get to do one sweep and then straight onto it. It doesn't feel huge, but it's very, very heavy. That's why I use those little assist hooks. They come in just for a cheeky little tap, suck on it. These hooks get all sorts of tangled up in them, and I end up with a fish. That's nearly 47. So we've just been sitting in this one spot. There's a lot of fish, but I'm not trying to give them a natural presentation. I'm looking for that response. So using a fast retrieve, and it just triggers something in their brain, and they just go, eat it or it's gone.
With Dean starting to rack up some bigger fish, it was worth learning how our scientists establish the age of larger fish.
One of the really important pieces of information that we can gather from fish is their ages, and we do that by extracting their otoliths and looking at the rings to count how many years old they are. We have a bass here that we caught this morning, and we're going to take the otoliths out of it right now. Removing the otoliths involves getting down to the base of the gills and opening up a small bony chamber inside the gills of the fish, and inside there will be the two little ear bones, and they're the things we've got to get out. So here's the otolith deep down inside the skull. We pull it out with a pair of tweezers and it comes out quite easily. Okay, so we just pulled out the second otolith there. So we won't be able to see the actual age rings in this light here. Generally what we do is we cut thin sections, just like you cut pieces of a tree trunk, and that's where you'll be able to see the rings on how old they are. So to process these otoliths, we take them back to the lab, we cut them into thin slices using a diamond tip saw.
As David gets samples ready for the lab, it's time to watch Dean continue the hunt for a 50cm plus bass.
I've just changed colours. I was using a natural purple colour. I switched to like a silver with a bit of a glow, hoping to maybe deter some of those smaller fish we're catching and catch a bigger one. I was burning it and opening the bail before, and they take it on the fall, but I noticed I was missing a fair few, so I've changed it now to a sweep, and even though it's still free falling, I can feel the line on the descent. There we go, and you hook up. But I'm not missing them now because I've got that tension on the line, so when they grab it I can quickly wind into them. That was on that colour change. I find often with schooling bass, they quickly get used to the same lure, so a quick change in colour, grab another fish. Wasn't bigger than Nigel's, so it doesn't matter. Another heavy one. It's got big head shakes, but it's not doing anything yet. So we've got on the sound is full of fish, and they're not really wanting to feed. So what I'm using is a real erratic sweep to make that lure take off, and then they either let it go or they react. So I'm sort of playing on their instincts that they're going to react. This is a good fish, but it's also foul hooked again, so now I have the battle of getting it in. Oh yes, come on, be a 50. You can see that big knock. That's them just kicking their head. He's down there on his side, just, oh, look at that thing. So he must have been wrapped around the fin because he's not foul hooked, but as you can see, that lure is gone. So, like I said, I'm moving it fast. He has the decision of taking it or letting it go, and this big boy decided to take it. We did it. 50 and a half, nearly 51 pretty much, you could say. That's a trophy fish, that is. I've got friends that have never ever caught a 50 centimetre fish.
Recreational anglers have a really important role to play in helping manage fisheries. Through recording information about what they catch, tagging fish that they catch can be really useful information for the future management of the fisheries. It's important that we keep an eye and continue to monitor fisheries like Lake Samson Vale because it helps the stocking group work out their stocking rates and to make sure things don't go wrong, like they accidentally overstock and end up with a runted bass population.
It's a reasonable size one, it's not massive. There we go. The quality fish, about 400, but very nice. There you go, another nice quality fish, not massive, but about 400 or something. I'll quickly measure it, but I think we'll call it a day now and we'll go back and have a chat to Nigel and let him know about the results of this afternoon. How's your afternoon?
Well, I wasn't fishing. How was yours?
I wouldn't say I was fishing, I was more like catching.
I had a sneaking suspicion that you'd show me how it was done.
If you were there, it would have been more fun.
All right, how'd you go?
505 was the biggest.
That's terrible, that's terrible. Now we know why Dean is on the big bucks in the bass tournament circuit. So it's been a good day of learning. Learned how good these guys are. I need to brush up a few of my skills. And it's been great talking to the scientists about what a great little case study this is, how important our apex predators like our bass are and our impoundments, whether it's a wild system or a stock one like this, mate. Thank you very much.
No, thank you for the opportunity.
Enjoy the rest of the tournament season, I'm sure you will, and we will see you on the water somewhere else.
Today there are many recreational anglers tagging fish and recording details as part of active tagging associations. Groups such as the Pine Rivers Fish Management Association play important roles in managing our waterways. For more details about the PRFMA and the work they do, head to the website prfma.com.au.